fragment from a forbidden chronicle records this moment, not as a battle, but as a judgment. The sea itself bore witness, its rhythmic waves echoing a truth too vast for mortals to endure. Beneath a rising crimson sun, the night was not fading, it was being executed. In recap, Renegade Immortal Chapter 73, 1074, Wang Lin's fury finally takes form through Sundered Night, a power drawn from the very law of origin. What was once darkness now fractures under a merciless dawn, and the first to face this irreversible collapse is Master Void. Already teetering on death, now erased without even the dignity of resistance. Yet this is no simple victory. The gray-robed All-Seer and his avatars, cornered and unraveling, unleash everything they possess, slaughter energy, heavenly fate, and the screams of devoured souls, in a desperate attempt to defy the sun itself. But when the heavens are rewritten by a single will, can even fate survive being burned away? Before the first ray of dawn split the heavens, before the sea surrendered to light, terror had already seized the hearts of those standing beneath the endless night. The waves thundered across the shore again and again. Each crash carried a strange cadence, a rhythm older than mortals, a pulse that seemed woven into the laws governing heaven and earth itself. And as that sound echoed through the darkness, the gray-robed All-Seer felt his throat turn dry. Not only him, the yellow-robed avatar, the purple-robed avatar, all three felt an icy fear spreading through their bodies like poison. In fact, the terror consuming the latter two was even stronger. It clawed into their hearts uncontrollably, growing wilder with every passing breath. Then, Master Void raised his head, and in that instant, he fully awakened to what was happening. Far away at the edge of the sea, a crimson sun slowly emerged from beneath the horizon. Only a sliver of it could be seen at first, but that fragment alone released dazzling brilliance sharp enough to resemble countless heavenly swords slashing through darkness. The night trembled violently, because anyone trapped within that darkness became part of it. And when the night shattered, they too would perish. This was Wang Lin's Sundered Night. Time became distorted. It felt unbearably long, as though ages were passing between each heartbeat. Yet at the same time, it all seemed to occur within a fleeting instant. Then the sun rose higher, and the world changed. An indescribable force erupted from the horizon. It was the unstoppable might carried by the birth of dawn itself, a force capable of annihilating everything daring to stand before it. At that moment, the terrifying power hidden within that tiny fragment of the law of origin revealed itself completely. The night sky was ripped apart by force, not dispersed, not weakened. Torn apart, it was a power that could overturn heaven and earth, shake the stars, and collapse the endless dark into ruin. The broken night was swept away as boundless light flooded the world. But this was not merely the power of the rising sun. Inside it burned Wang Lin's monstrous killing intent. Inside it roared the unwilling fury born from his endless pursuit through the Celestial Emperor Cave. The humiliation of becoming nothing more than a pawn within the schemes of the All-Seer and ancient devil Xianxia. And the rage he had buried deep inside himself for far too long, everything erupted together. Following Wang Lin's 2 vermilion bird awakenings, a terrifying heat was born within him. It surpassed every flame his cultivation had ever produced before. And now, empowered by the law of origin, Sundered Night seized the very instant the sun breached the horizon. It captured that brief, terrifying heat of dawn, then magnified it to an unimaginable degree. The scarlet sun rising from the sea unleashed endless golden radiance. Its heat became catastrophic. This was no longer a simple spell capable of scattering darkness. It sought to crush all existence, to incinerate everything beneath heaven into ash. And the first to face that terrifying divine art was Master Void. He stood closest. As sunlight swept across the land, waves of unbearable heat followed behind it. Master Void had already reached the brink of death long ago. His origin soul was continuously fading after failing his first Heaven's Blight. Had ancient devil Xianxia not sealed him back then, he would have died ages ago. But now, under the endless radiance of dawn, the darkness around him shattered completely. Master Void's face lost all color. His body, which had been formed through the power of the first Heaven's Blight, began collapsing. Both of his legs suddenly transformed into drifting mist. But the instant that mist appeared, the sunlight erased it entirely. Nothing remained. Yet strangely, Master Void could no longer feel pain, only fear, boundless fear, and disbelief so deep it nearly shattered his mind. After his legs vanished, the ancient devil mark between his brows flickered violently. It struggled to endure for only a brief moment before dissolving as well. The instant the mark disappeared, Master Void released a miserable scream. His body rapidly collapsed apart. Still, even while disintegrating, he desperately tried to flee backward. But how could he escape? The world was vast beyond imagination, yet even the endless night itself could not flee from Sundered Night. So how could he? No matter how frantically he retreated, no matter how desperately he struggled, death still chased after him. The sunlight surged forward mercilessly. Master Void's screams echoed through the heavens as golden radiance pierced directly through his body. Then, he vanished completely. Only a miserable smile remained upon his fading face, a smile filled with despair. Master Void had once stood at the peak of the Nirvana Shatterer stage. His status within the Alliance had been extraordinarily high. He was even junior brother to Master Xianxia himself. His name had once shaken countless cultivators across the world. Yet in the end, he still could not escape reincarnation. He could not escape heaven's blight, and he could not escape the consequences brought by his own sins. With endless regret and an unwilling desire to continue living, Master Void disappeared forever. All of this happened within a blink. The moment dawn rose, Master Void died, and the terrifying sunlight did not stop there. After shredding the night apart, it swept directly toward the gray-robed All-Seer and the remaining two avatars. The instant that terrifying radiance approached, the gray-robed All-Seer felt unbearable agony explode throughout his body. It felt as though every inch of flesh, every strand of soul, was being ripped apart. Even his independent origin soul became trapped inside that destructive power. Never before had he experienced pain like this. It was as though his entire existence was being torn into pieces. A terrifying sensation of imminent death filled his heart. Suppressing the fear rising within him, the gray-robed All-Seer suddenly roared toward the sky. He spread both arms wide as monstrous origin energy erupted from his body. That energy transformed instantly into endless slaughter aura. The killing intent flooded the heavens. It spread across the sky like a raging sea of blood. Furious roars erupted from within the slaughter energy as though countless murderous spirits were howling together. It tried to drown out the sound of the waves. It tried to suppress Wang Lin's Sundered Night. The spell before him had already shaken him so badly that he nearly lost control of his own mind. At the same time, the yellow-robed and purple-robed avatars also turned deathly pale. Both unleashed their divine abilities without hesitation. The yellow-robed All-Seer suddenly spun at terrifying speed. His body transformed into a violent storm as he charged upward into the heavens. Immediately, the color of the sky changed. Endless yellow ripples spread through the darkness. Then, a gigantic heavenly fate finger descended from above. The yellow-robed avatar was the incarnation that possessed the law of heavenly fate itself. Now, with a thunderous roar, the enormous finger crashed toward the rising sun, carrying an overwhelming pressure capable of forcing all living beings into worship. He intended to destroy the sun itself. Meanwhile, the purple-robed All-Seer formed seals rapidly with both hands. A vast purple mist emerged behind him. The mist rose upward and fused into the darkness of night. Even the purple-robed All-Seer himself merged into that darkness. In the blink of an eye, hints of purple appeared throughout the night sky. Then, hideous figures began walking out from within it, one after another. Some were men, some were women. Every single one looked different, but all of them resembled furious ghosts crawling out from the deepest layers of hell. The moment they emerged, shrill screeches and savage roars shook the heavens. These were the countless souls devoured by the heavenly fate sect throughout endless years. Yet, the moment their divine abilities appeared, the sunlight pierced through them exactly as it had pierced through the darkness itself. Those evil specters charged madly toward the blazing sun. But before that terrifying dawn, they were utterly powerless. Like moths throwing themselves into a flame, they were shredded apart instantly. Some ignited the moment sunlight touched them. Others collapsed screaming before fully disintegrating into nothingness. It all happened in moments. The purple-robed All-Seer was forcibly expelled from the darkness. His expression twisted violently. His face turned pale white. Blood sprayed from his mouth. His pupils contracted fiercely as terror consumed his heart completely. At the same time, the heavenly fate finger continued descending with overwhelming force toward the rising sun. But before it could even approach, sunlight engulfed it. Popping sounds erupted from inside the massive finger. Then flames spread rapidly across its surface. Within moments, the heavenly fate finger collapsed apart, just like the shattered night itself. The yellow-robed All-Seer coughed blood violently. Blood seeped from every opening on his body as agony overtook him. His face turned pale with despair. Then he let out a bitter laugh. Law of origin, the source from which all laws beneath heaven are born. His voice trembled with disbelief. At that moment, the gray-robed All-Seer's endless slaughter energy surged toward the sun like countless vicious dragons. But beneath the blazing sunlight, strand after strand of killing aura dissolved. Anything that survived for even a brief moment was immediately torn apart by the terrifying radiance. The gray-robed All-Seer's face became pale, yet madness filled his eyes. Unlike the others, he possessed an independent will, and because of that, he understood clearly. If he did not fight with absolutely everything he had, he would die beneath this spell, so he gambled everything. The gray-robed All-Seer formed a seal and pointed toward his own body. Explosive popping sounds erupted from within him. His eyes instantly became blood red. Then a crimson ray burst out from between his brows. It was a blood sword. This sword was the true source of all slaughter energy he had cultivated. It was the root of his murderous Tao. The instant it appeared, boundless killing intent flooded the heavens and earth. The gray-robed All-Seer pointed forward. The blood sword shot toward the rising sun like crimson lightning splitting the sky. At the same time, the yellow-robed All-Seer also roared madly. He spread both arms wide and rushed upward. Then something horrifying happened. In a blink, his head transformed into a thumb. His arms became the index and middle fingers. His legs transformed into the ring finger and pinky. And his body itself became the palm. He transformed into an unimaginably gigantic hand. This divine hand resembled the heavenly fate finger, yet it was far more terrifying, because it contained every ounce of power possessed by the yellow-robed All-Seer. As the giant palm rushed toward the blazing sun, its fingers spread open wide. It intended to seize the sun directly. As for the purple-robed All-Seer, he wiped the blood from his lips. Madness completely overtook his eyes. Then he moved, and the moment he did, thousands upon thousands of shadows appeared behind him. They resembled after-images left behind due to unimaginable speed. Yet every shadow looked different. As the purple-robed All-Seer charged toward the sun, each shadow continuously fused back into his body one after another, and with every fusion, his aura grew more terrifying, more violent, more monstrous. At this point, all three avatars had been cornered into utter desperation. Like trapped beasts standing at the edge of death, they understood one terrifying truth clearly. If they failed to break Wang Lin's Sundered Night, none of them would survive. The sea of the demon spirit land burned beneath a crimson sky. And in that burning horizon, the sun itself suddenly opened its eyes. No one understood what they were witnessing at first. Then fear arrived, because standing within that blazing golden sun was Wang Lin. His figure floated like an immortal sovereign born from ancient chaos. Endless streams of golden radiance erupted from his body, flooding the heavens with unbearable heat. Beneath him, the ocean twisted between illusion and reality, and the entire demon spirit land seemed trapped inside a world where truth and dreams had become indistinguishable. At that very instant, the three incarnations of the All-Seer charged forward together. Killing intent shook the heavens, yet Wang Lin merely looked toward them with cold, emotionless eyes. Then he lifted his hand. A single wave, one calm sentence. Sundered Night. The moment those words echoed across the world, heaven itself trembled. A thunderous roar exploded over the sea. The blazing sun completely rose from the ocean horizon, and a terrifying force capable of tearing apart eternal darkness erupted outward without restraint. Endless sunlight flooded the heavens like a tidal wave. Golden brilliance surged across the world with unstoppable momentum. And hidden inside that light was the law of origin itself, the source of all laws. The power flowed through heaven and earth as though the very beginning of existence had awakened once more. The night was being torn apart. The purple-robed All-Seer moved with shocking speed. Thousands of shadowy figures fused into his body as he rushed directly into the path of the rising sun. His countless after-images filled the sky like ghosts from the underworld. But before Sundered Night, all darkness was doomed. The endless sunlight crashed into him. The burning heat devoured everything, no exceptions. A miserable scream burst from the purple-robed All-Seer as unimaginable agony consumed him. His arms exploded into bloody mist first. Then his legs disintegrated. Large portions of his body collapsed apart beneath the overwhelming radiance. In only a moment, the purple-robed avatar was destroyed. As his body crumbled, countless black shadows burst outward from within him. They shrieked wildly and lunged toward Wang Lin inside the blazing sun. But the instant they touched the sunlight, they melted away like snowflakes thrown into molten fire. Not even ashes remained. At the same time, the yellow-robed All-Seer descended from above. A gigantic palm formed in the heavens, vast enough to block out all sunlight. The palm crashed downward with terrifying pressure, reaching directly toward Wang Lin himself. The sun trembled beneath that grasp. Yet Wang Lin remained calm. A cold sneer appeared on his face. The massive hand seized the blazing sun surrounding him. And then, a blood-curdling scream echoed through heaven and earth. Yang fire erupted violently across the giant palm. Flames capable of burning all things spread instantly, causing the enormous hand to tremble violently before collapsing apart. The yellow-robed All-Seer was forced back into his original form. From afar, it looked as though he was embracing the sun itself. But only a few breaths later, his entire body ignited. Fire consumed him completely. Nothing remained except charred remnants drifting through the air. Then came the gray-robed All-Seer. His eyes were bloodshot with madness. The blood sword in his hand unleashed monstrous slaughter energy as it shot toward Wang Lin in a desperate final attack. The sword tore through the burning sunlight, piercing deeper and deeper into the blazing sun. Slaughter intent collided against boundless heat. The entire sky shook violently. The gray-robed All-Seer roared furiously. Then, his right eye exploded. Blood sprayed into the air. The moment his eye shattered, the blood sword's power increased several times over. The surrounding flames were forced backward. Even the sunlight itself fractured apart beneath the sword's terrifying momentum. The blade tore through most of the sun. Only 10 feet remained between the sword and Wang Lin. The gray-robed All-Seer let out another savage roar. His left eye burst apart as well. With both eyes destroyed, the blood sword became even more terrifying. It pierced through the remaining sunlight completely and rushed directly toward Wang Lin's chest. As that desperate strike erupted forward, the shattered night that had been torn apart by Sundered Night unexpectedly began to condense once more. Darkness struggled to reform. It was as though the night itself refused to die. As though it wished to swallow the sun again. Then, the blood sword struck Wang Lin. The blade pierced directly into his chest, but halfway through, Wang Lin's right hand suddenly grabbed the sword. The impact forced him backward several steps. Blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. His chest trembled violently beneath the sword's terrifying force. Then Wang Lin slowly lifted his head. His expression became savage, filled with killing intent. "Old monster, you nearly killed me when you forced me to cultivate the celestial slaughter art." His voice thundered across the world. "Today, you die!" The moment his roar exploded outward, the blazing sun surrounding his body suddenly became unstable. Then, it detonated. The sun exploded with Wang Lin at its center. A terrifying shockwave erupted outward like the destruction of heaven itself. Endless golden fire spread madly in every direction. The sky looked as though it had been ripped apart by divine wrath. The sea below instantly went berserk. Towering waves roared upward. The earth cracked and collapsed. At that moment, the destructive force unleashed by the exploding sun reached an unimaginable level. The gray-robed All-Seer was closest to the blast. He barely had enough time to form a seal and place both hands before himself defensively. His body curled inward instinctively, almost like a helpless infant facing the fury of the heavens. Then the explosion swallowed him whole. Rumble! 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 The remnants of reforming night completely shattered apart. The sky disappeared. The earth disappeared. Everything vanished beneath the chaotic collapse of the exploding sun. For one terrifying instant, nothing existed anymore. Then suddenly, the illusion broke. The sea vanished. The The sun vanished. Even the shattered heavens disappeared without a trace. And what remained before everyone's eyes was the demon spirit land itself, as though everything moments earlier had only been a dream. The sky was still crimson. Endless flames still burned overhead. Far away, the cry of the vermilion bird pierced through the heavens as it drew closer and closer. Yet the horrified expressions on every cultivator below proved one undeniable truth. What they had witnessed was real. The gray-robed All-Seer's body continued dissipating until only a tiny fragment of will remained. That final remnant instantly fled back into the All-Seer's true body. Sundered Night had slain 3 people, and these were not ordinary cultivators. Master Void had died. 2 incarnations of the All-Seer had been utterly destroyed. Even the gray-robed avatar had nearly perished, reduced to a mere sliver of surviving will. Silence swallowed the battlefield. Ling Tianhao's body trembled violently. Before today, he had feared Wang Lin, but fear was not terror. Even the giant palm earlier had only unsettled him. Yet now, true terror filled his heart. He could never have imagined Wang Lin's divine ability would evolve into something so horrifying. What level has his cultivation reached? His scalp went numb. What kind of spell is this? Meanwhile, the All-Seer himself staggered backward. His face had turned pale. Blood spilled from his mouth as his body retreated several steps uncontrollably. He lifted his head and stared toward Wang Lin with eyes filled with disbelief and fury. 3 avatars, 2 destroyed, 1 nearly annihilated. For countless years, he had never suffered such a devastating loss. Even his own body and origin soul had been injured. But compared to physical wounds, something else frightened him more: his calculations. Again and again, his calculations regarding Wang Lin had failed. Each mistake shattered his confidence further. No one noticed it, but the All-Seer's body was trembling. He trembled because of that spell. The instant Sundered Night appeared, he had already recognized its nature, the law of origin, the source of all laws. A power no cultivator should have been capable of controlling, a force beyond reason, a force beyond imagination. He destroyed 3 of my avatars. The All-Seer clenched his teeth so hard blood seeped from his gums. Wang Lin, the greatest mistake of my life was accepting you as my disciple. His voice became hoarse. And allowing you to leave planet Suzaku. He inhaled deeply, forcibly suppressing the storm raging inside his heart. But the shock would not disappear. Not for him. Not for anyone. Situnan stood frozen. Big head stared blankly into the distance. Master Hollow Wind's scalp turned numb with lingering fear. Compared to the others, he was slightly less shocked because he had already experienced Sundered Night once before. Yet even now, terror still gripped his heart. Wang Wei and Hu Juan exchanged looks filled with horror. Moments earlier, they too had been dragged into the illusion created by the spell. Yet it was as though they had existed in a separate world entirely. They could only watch everything unfold helplessly, unable to interfere, unable to escape. But among everyone present, 2 people experienced the greatest shock of all: ancient devil Tajia and the Flower Imperial Concubine. The Flower Imperial Concubine stared toward Wang Lin with eyes filled with both fear and remembrance. She remembered her husband's prophecy. One day, someone surnamed Wang would save him. And now she had witnessed Wang Lin unleash a spell born from the law of origin itself. Fear rose within her heart because no one present understood the horror of that power more deeply than she did. Back in the past, even Celestial Emperor Qing Lin had nearly died beneath the law of origin. Inside the sealed realm, it was called the law of origin. But beyond the sealed realm, its true name was known as the law of absolute beginning. Meanwhile, ancient devil Tajia's expression changed for the very first time. The ancient devil, who had remained calm through countless calamities, now felt his mind shake violently. Inside Wang Lin's spell, he sensed an extremely terrifying power. Though still weak now, once it matured, even he would be forced to retreat in fear. Tajia's pupils shrank. This is the power of the Supreme. His gaze locked firmly onto Wang Lin, and in that instant, a chilling realization surfaced inside his mind. This person, this Wang Lin, might very well be the final hidden move Celestial Emperor Qing Lin had prepared before his awakening. Far away, within the headquarters of the Cultivation Alliance, the hall containing the life tokens of important figures remained silent and solemn. At the very top shelf, 3 purple jade life tokens rested there, and at the exact moment Wang Lin's Sundered Night vanished. One of those jade tokens shattered apart. Crack! The sound echoed like thunder. Immediately afterward, a deep bell chime rang throughout the headquarters. Dong. Cultivators inside the headquarters slowly raised their heads toward the life token hall. Since the war against all heaven began, deaths occurred every single day. But ordinary cultivators were not qualified to have life tokens stored at headquarters. The death bell rarely rang. Even 5 consecutive tolls was considered extraordinary. And whenever an important member of the Cultivation Alliance died, revenge would follow without mercy. The Alliance cared nothing for morality. Anyone who dared kill one of their core figures would become the enemy of the entire organization. The bell rang again. Dong. Then again, 3 times, 4, 5. As the 5th toll echoed outward, more cultivators lifted their heads with grave expressions. Yet the bell did not stop. Dong. 6 times, 7, then 8. At that moment, every cultivator inside headquarters froze completely. All eyes turned toward the hall, storing the life tokens of powerful cultivators. Fear quietly spread. Then, Dong! The 9th bell toll echoed across the heavens. A wave of terror erupted inside every heart. Inside a secret chamber deep within headquarters, a middle-aged man suddenly raised his head. Indignation exploded from his eyes. His body blurred instantly, surging through headquarters like a violent storm. In only a breath, he arrived before the shattered life token. His eyes landed upon Master Void's broken jade piece. Then, a heaven-shaking roar erupted from his mouth.